What's going on? So today we have a trade review from Friday, August 11th. We took a $90 loss on technically 5 trades, but I really am going to be playing off of 3. The last one was essentially they were break evens, and I'll explain that at the end of the video. Semi-experimental, if I should say, on AMD. So overall, though, off the bat, I'll start with SPY because not that I traded SPY. But I mean, still, it's the same gist. And is it surprising on the big picture? And when I say same gist, is that we're not getting a ton of momentum. And there were opportunities, but they took their time to set up, and they were not clean. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So the strat's not necessarily operating. It could have been green today, I think, but still not operating, the way it needs to be, or the way I want it to be. So essentially, SPY filled the entirety of the gap that we had from a little while ago, filled that to the downside, and then it's bouncing. So it's the same shit, different day, right? Pull back, bip, pull back, bip, pull back, bip, up, down. We've been generally trending down, right? And if you look across certain stocks, some are getting hit more than others. But the overall SPY is not really aligning perfectly. And when you look at overall stocks, you say some are going to hit more than others. Two of the trades today were on AMD and NVDA. Well, look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA's, it's getting hit, if you will. You say hit, but like realistically, the thing is up so much. You talk about getting hit, fill this gap. Then I'll hear the people crying about it. That until then, it's not that painful, in my opinion. Same thing with AMD, right? It's been, kind of down more, I guess, over the past couple of weeks and months. But, overall, still stocks did very, very well. Okay, so I'm going to start with AMD first. That was our first trade of the day. Let's frame it with the daily chart, though, on AMD. Framed here, right, you can see the blue line. That was my original trade, or at least idea in pre-market, and I'll show you what I think what ended up happening here and my thoughts on it. But yeah, weak. It's near lows. I like that. We start pushing these lows. Again, pressure on lows. Eventually, you can get a nice downside day. And you kind of did. You still are down 2.5%. Maybe at the end of the day, it goes for more. I don't know. But what do you see? Little wiki action. Not putting complete pressure as of now. It's kind of bouncing, and it's not the cleanest of movements. And you can even see that by the 1-hour chart. A little more cleaner to talk about or to see. When I say that is like, yes, you had the breakdown underneath the blue line, which was my breakdown point, which I liked shorts under this level on if I got a 5-minute opportunity or set up on the 5-minute chart, but it dumps so fast, then it bounces all the way back up to that line. Technically, it did a nice retest, and then it fell back off. But you see how it's not just giving you clean momentum. It's kind of breaking, retesting, maybe even bouncing back above prior resistance. So or support. So you're having that weird, awkward, action. That's just me talking now after the fact and kind of seeing and digesting what happened today. So based off of that, I decided to play this double bottom break right here on the 5-minute chart. Shortly after the open. It was 15 minutes after the open. I won't play the actual open, but give it 10-15 minutes and I'm interested. But in this case, looking back, got a little pop below, and then it went right back up and stopped me out. Stop losses at this point, I believe, over VWAP or above some of these upper wicks, and it stopped me out on that AMD. So go back to this. AMD puts lost $100. So lost that's our R. So 1 R is $100 right now. So essentially today was a 0.9 R downside day, which is not terrible. When you have a bad win rate, when you have a sub 50% win rate, and you lose less than 1 R, that's pretty good. In my opinion, I'm going to call this as a 33% win rate day. These are technically break-even trades, so you can just wash those. And then it really was 2 losses and then 1 winner. And the 1 winner that ended up actually being 1.2 R to the upside, $120. So it was bigger than the losses, which is a good sign. Now we're at a point where it's okay, once the market aligns better with the strat, which who knows when that's going to happen. Maybe it's next week. Maybe it was today. Maybe it's tomorrow. You don't know. There's no way to know. There's some signs, and we have yet to see them really kind of align, and the signs point to us in a really good momentum state. Really would be SPY giving us better clues, more of a trend instead of a choppy, consolidation pullback BS. So we'll see. But once that happens, we'll be good. We'll rip into the upside. We'll be making some nice trades. I'm not really super worried about that. But this is part of the game. And maybe it's August trading. I don't know. I don't want to chalk it up to August and be like, yeah, it's an excuse. I have no idea. There's still 3 weeks to go. So we will see. That was that. And then NVIDIA. So I took a loss and then I had a win. I'll just pull up the chart and show you. But the last trades, actually, these break evens were on some one was like a 0 day. I was just testing it out. But I literally got in, put a stop loss at my entry and then let it go. And it was this. Here's AMD, right? Gave you a flag, really, or a consolidation, level right here at that exact same spot from this morning, putting, right in near low of the day. Like, this is a textbook setup after this pop. Really was a retest of a prior support. Like, it looked great as, okay, I'm like, oh, maybe it's going to, screw me here and then only send it down later. And so these tend to work nice. And it kind of did. But again, it took you 20, 30 minutes to get that, and it wasn't a clean, solid move. And so I ended up getting stopped back out on that, on those 0 days or, different contracts or whatever. On smaller size, just as more of a test. It was something that I was willing to lose a few bucks on, but I kept the stops pretty tight, as you can see. So that was the idea. But again, so if we were in a better momentum state, this would have been a cleaner, downside move, right? And it wasn't. So we're just not there. So that's just what it's telling me. NVIDIA, different story here because we ended up getting a massive downside move. Again, same thing. It kind of put pressure on these levels and eventually it sent it and it got it. And my actual second trade on NVIDIA, I believe was on this. I entered on this red candle right here. Very similar to, I think, a day or two ago where it got in, kind of backtested for 10, 15 minutes, and then it sent it down. That was a big move. That was a chart. That was momentum. The thing is, AMD was weaker early, so I prefer AMD because it was weaker. And then NVIDIA ended up just putting pressure, really kind of keeping these lower highs, keeping it pretty simple. And then eventually it was the weakest play, and it still is, at least on my list right now, of large caps that I like to trade. And so it worked nice. That was the second trade on NVIDIA. Was not all that move, but I literally got in on this candle, and I believe I got out on this candle, or one of these two right here. So that was the deal on NVIDIA. The first trade that I took on it, I did lose, and this one I think I could have not taken. So I'll pull this one up. This one was the first trade on NVIDIA, and that was this 105 loss. That was an entry at 9:11 a.m. my time, Central Time, which was on this candle right here. So looking back, right, why did I take this trade? Well, I see lower highs. I see a weak stock at the time. I believe that it broke down to be the weakest on the day of my list. It broke below prior lows, prior support. So a textbook, or, kind of meeting it met the criteria that I was looking for, right? On a stock. And then you go to the 1 hour chart, clearly trending to the downside. There was no red flags in terms of playing, the trending, playing the stock in the right direction, right? So we had all of the stars kind of aligning there. Every setup is different, but the only star I would say that didn't align was that it wasn't tight. And when I say tight, I need to kind of I kind of got away from that with this trade. And what I mean by that is tight is putting pressure on a level. You get to that point, and it's tighter in here than it is up here. You see what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. This just snaps up, sends it down within 2 candles. Within 10 minutes, it breaks lows. Could it have worked? Yes. But in this case, bouncing back up, putting in a lower high, that was the mistake. And because I stopped out here, what I could have done, and in this scenario, if you are going to play something like that, the invalidation of the pattern would be, in my view here, would technically be breaking back up here. That's kind of how you have to play it if you're going to play it right after a big move. Because when you get big moves, you get back tests, you get retests and stuff. So in order for you to in my head to logically stay in that, I'd have to have the stop huge, which would then mean I got to go out an extra couple weeks or expiration, or I got to size down. That's why the trade was actually with a couple $100 and not with the $1,000, because that risk reward was kind of the thing. It just hit my $100 stop loss, I believe, on this candle. And so I was like, I got to get out. Little did I realize, it was about to end up just putting in a lower high and breaking down later on. So some minor things there. You do the math on that, and you wipe away the $100 red, and then you end up going $100 or $100+ green. And so that's a green day just like that. So it's not like you're far off. Not like I'm far off. It's just, again, it's not the way that I'm looking for. And again, that's just my bad, my error. It's not as clean as I want it, and so I'm making the best call at the time with what I got. If the environment was a little more momentum based, then I think we would be totally fine. We wouldn't be getting stopped out as much as we are. But you got to have them, because if you don't have them and all of a sudden NVIDIA does this, and sends and it breaks this low and then does this, and now you can't stay in that. That's a bag holder, right? So you gotta have a logical stop at some point, right? And so I try to keep it around 10%, and I stick to that pretty nicely, just to avoid, even if I do get stopped on some stuff that I probably don't need to be stopped on for a couple trades, like, I'd still rather have the stop loss and then not get blown up on one stock and take 6 losses in a row, and then just correct the mistakes later on, and then you can come back and make and go 20 out of the next 30, and then we're fine. You know what I mean? So that's what it's all about in my head. So overall, on the week, this is going to be a red week, second red week in a row, by the way. The overall week ends up down 393, so about, let's call it 4R down. Win rate this week was 30%, not surprised, and our average win-loss was 1.38. That's good. So consider everything here, right? The game now is just get this up, and so you kind of fall back into place of, okay, how do we get this up? Well, A, market conditions, and there's no way to control that, so that's out of my control. And then B, it's being, pretty selective. And actually, what I've been finding is that technically the first hour is just avoid the first hour. It's a little bit more choppy, and then there's stuff like this that breaks down, right? Even on the AMD trade, right? Even on AMD, the technical that we lost, right? But even here, if I had waited, there was even maybe a trade here to be had, or if I took this, these could have been winners. I don't know. It'd be close. It's about 50, only 50 cents. I don't know if it would have been, but maybe if I had gotten in here, it could have been winners. So again, the better bets and the cleaner trades end up coming, it looks like, after 9:30 a.m. my time, so an hour after the market opens. So that's kind of the thoughts, an hour after the open. Also, the AMD trade, I completely forgot. This is a mistake too in my head. I had been kind of not giving a shit about news, because I'm like, yeah, fuck the news. It doesn't matter. Like, once we got PPI, CPI out the way, who cares? This AMD, right, I was in right here, and then this candle, which started to move back up, there was a news release at that time. You go to the news release. This is why it's important to always watch this stuff. And this is my bad again. Consumer sentiment. I think consumer sentiment is one of the most bullshit fucking pieces of news to come out. Let's be honest. But it doesn't matter. It can move the markets. It doesn't matter if I give a shit about it or not. It can, and it has moved the market. So on days when we have consumer sentiment, I have actually generally been in the past like, I'm going to wait 30 minutes because it comes out 30 minutes after the open. Today, I completely forgot about it. Didn't even look at the news. I assumed PPI, CPI PPI this morning was the only thing to worry about. Didn't think about that. And so maybe it would have worked, hence if because the market rallied too, SPY rallied too, we're off that consumer sentiment news. You can see it like extremely clearly now. It was this candle right here, this massive green candle after kind of pushing down into these lows. This massive green candle was literally after the consumer sentiment news. So something to make sure you're always aware of. Little mistakes. Not the best of weeks, I'll tell you that, but not terrible. Not terrible. See how next week goes. And considering the conditions, I'm not pissed about it. But we shall see. Any links, resources? Oh, yeah, check it out. There's also a link to this down below. It is an affiliate link, but they recently haven't built their affiliate program out on TradeZella. So I pay yearly for it. It's cheaper to pay yearly, I believe, than pay monthly. But this is the trading or the tracking software that I use, TradeZella, and I'm covering some of it up here. It does a lot more where that came from. You can add notes. You can go into each individual trade. I didn't go on to all the details, but into each individual thing, there is so much more that you can go and dive into, and it gives you running P&Ls. You can add your chart images, you can add any notes, commentary, you can tag the trades, setups and stuff. So it makes it super easy. I'm playing just one setup right now, so I haven't been adding a ton of this stuff because I don't feel like I need to, and these videos kind of do a good job, but it is a great journaling and tracking software if you are looking for one or want to track your trades with the same platform that I've got right here. That said, any other links, resources are down below like usual. And we'll see what happens next week. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.